I just wanted to hop in here and say that active listener support is now available on Spotify. You can do a contribution starting at 99 cents. These contributions are definitely not an expectation or required of you guys. All these contributions go right back into the podcast, and it would mean a lot if you could help me out. Although it is not a requirement, and if you cannot, because I do understand, that is perfectly fine. You listening is all I need. Check out the support link in the description if you'd like to contribute. Rudy Farias, now 25 years old, went missing 8 years ago at age 17, only to be discovered that he wasn't truly missing at all. As we delve into this perplexing story, we'll explore the alleged abuse by his own mother and some unanswered questions that will leave us searching for the truth. Get ready for a mind-boggling journey into the mysterious case of Rudy Farias. Hey guys, I'm Jordan, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Murder in My Bedroom. If you're new, welcome. I would love it if you subscribe, as it really helps out the podcast in the early days. Last week we discussed the Delphi murder, so if you haven't checked that out, please be sure to. Today's case was actually requested over on TikTok, so make sure you're following at Murder in My Bedroom over there to stay updated on this case and other cases. I just want to say we are officially 1 month into Murder in My Bedroom. I have been having so much fun researching and producing these episodes, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for liking the video, watching the video, subscribing, any kind of support. Really, thank you. I'm excited to grow with you all and can't wait to see where this takes us. Now, let's hop into today's episode. On the evening of March 6, 2015, Rudy Farias was last seen walking his dogs near Tidwell and Park Avenue in Texas. The 17-year-old, described as a quiet and introverted individual, was wearing blue jeans, a black t-shirt, gray cotton gloves, and brown shoes. It is important to note that Rudy was facing a variety of personal struggles at the time of his disappearance. According to a Texas EquuSearch flyer circulated afterward, Rudy had been diagnosed with depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and anxiety. Sadly, it is believed that he had stopped taking his medication, adding another layer of concern to his disappearance. Rudy's loved ones became increasingly worried when he failed to return home that fateful evening. His dogs were found unharmed, but Rudy was nowhere to be found. Speculation and unease spread throughout the community as days turned into weeks and then months, leaving everyone wondering what happened to Rudy. Adding to the complexity of the case, Rudy had actually suffered an injury to his right leg, resulting in a slight limp. Could this physical impairment have played a role in his disappearance? So many questions were drafting at the time. As investigation progressed, various theories emerged. Some speculated that Rudy's mental health struggles and medication cessation might have contributed to his vanishing. Others pondered the possibility of foul play or involvement of unknown individuals who might have taken advantage of his vulnerability. Rudy's mother, Janie Santana, spoke to local news in 2015, expressing her desperate search for her son. She claimed that the Houston Police Department had informed her that Rudy may have been abducted and sold for human trafficking. She did not show her face in the interview, citing advice from law enforcement to be cautious. In 2018, authorities received a call from a relative who claimed to have spotted Rudy behind their home. However, when officers arrived to the scene, they did not find him. Tragically, Rudy's father, Rudolph Farias III, who was a Houston police officer, died by suicide in 2014. He had been a veteran of the force for 21 years and was under investigation by Internal Affairs at the time of his death. It has also been noted in the Texas EquuSearch flyer that Rudy had previously attempted to take his own life. In addition to struggling with his mental health issues, Rudy had also experienced the loss of his brother in a motorcycle accident in 2011, according to his mother's statement to ABC. A 2012 article from Fox 26 Houston mentioned that both Rudy and his mother, described as a Marine mother and son, were facing the possibility of homelessness. The preview of the report indicated that Rudy was unable to provide a face-to-face interview as he was hospitalized at the time. The specific details of his hospitalization were not provided in the available information. I just wanted to include all of this just to express the trauma that surrounds Rudy's life and family. In a surprising turn of events, Rudy's mother received a phone call from the Houston Police Department informing her that her son had been found alive after 8 long years of searching. Ms. Santana expressed her relief to the news despite the mentioning that Rudy had allegedly suffered from severe beatings and abuse during his absence. The news of Rudy's discovery was initially reported in a tweet by the Texas Center for the Missing. Acting as the family spokesperson, Janie Santana, Rudy's mother, released a statement mentioning that her son was nonverbal and requested privacy at this time. According to Houston police, they received a 911 call reporting an unconscious man outside the Immaculate Heart Church. Responding to the call, they found Rudy, who displayed visible signs of being beaten, including bruises, cuts, and dried blood on his head. Police contacted Rudy's family to inform them that he had been found alive. In a statement to local news, Rudy's mother expressed that Rudy was unresponsive when discovered by a Good Samaritan who promptly contacted the police and emergency services. She also mentioned that Rudy is receiving the necessary care to address his trauma but remains nonverbal and unable to communicate. Janie Santana disclosed that Rudy was found wearing a necklace that belonged to his late brother, and he would frequently hold and squeeze it when the doctors or family members tried to interact with him. She added that he appeared disoriented, would only speak a few words before shutting down, and often assumed a fetal position. However, this supposed miracle quickly sunk under scrutiny as allegations arise from neighbors claiming that Rudy was actually never missing. The Houston Police Department confirmed in a recent press conference that Rudy was not listed as a missing person. As doubts surrounding his disappearance grow, those who are involved in the initial search for the then 17-year-old are left questioning the reasons behind the alleged fake disappearance spanning 8 years. After the announcement that Rudy was not missing, neighbors of Janie revealed to ABC News that they had seen him in recent years and were unaware that he had been considered missing. What? So you're telling me we have a missing person and investigators didn't knock on neighbors' doors asking about this missing person? How were neighbors unaware? That's the first, what? They mentioned that sometimes they would even visit their garage and spend time with their family members. However, they did admit that they hadn't seen Rudy in recent years. Authorities are currently investigating the circumstances surrounding Rudy's disappearance and are trying to determine where he had been for the last 8 years. Tim Miller, the founder of Texas EquuSearch, described the case as very strange. Janie Santana had filed a missing persons report on March 6, 2015. Police Chief Troy Finner stated that Rudy had returned home on March 8, 2015, the day after he was last seen. Despite knowing this, investigators were given false names by Janie Santana and Rudy and were told that he was her nephew. So now we have Rudy telling authorities that he is Janie's nephew as well. So now we can kind of see what position the authorities were in, but also there is more digging they could have done. 100%. I mean, to now find out that neighbors didn't even know he was missing, that investigators even looked this man in the eye and determined that he was her cousin. Lieutenant Christopher Zamora of the Houston Police Department's Missing Persons Unit revealed that Janie continued to deceive the police by insisting that Rudy was still missing and claiming that her nephew was the person seen by family and friends. Neighbors and family members have come forward stating that they were aware that Rudy was not actually missing, despite him being considered a missing person for 8 years. Houston police acknowledged that they had had multiple interactions with both Rudy and his mother during the time he was believed to be missing. Despite receiving tips and leads suggesting that Rudy was not missing, the police failed to uncover the deception for 8 years. During the investigation, police obtained statements from friends, relatives, and neighbors. However, both Rudy and his mother provided different names and birthdays to the officers. Janie remained insistent that Rudy was still missing, and it remains unclear what steps the police took during their encounters to verify the identity of the individual before them. Despite false statements, the district attorney decided not to press charges against Janie Santana and Rudy for making false statements.
But keep in mind, Houston police at this point saying there's nothing criminal about this. Nobody's been charged, but the investigation is still ongoing. So really what's going on can be boiled down this morning into two questions. Is Rudy Farias a victim, or did he somehow work with his mother to lie to police over the past 8 years, as police are saying happened this morning?
The decision has been criticized by other family members, with one of being Janie's sister accusing the police of a cover-up. Mr. Zamora also contradicted allegations made by Houston activist and counselor Quanell X, who claimed that Rudy had experienced sexual and physical abuse during the past 8 years. Police stated that they take all allegations seriously and would investigate any new information received. Authorities did not disclose information regarding possible sexual abuse or comment on whether mental health has played a role in the deception that spanned 8 years. They also did not provide details about the motive behind the prolonged fabrication. Ultimately, they declined any claims of abuse against his mother.
He didn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that.
Just days after a Good Samaritan reportedly found 25-year-old Rudy Farias unresponsive outside a local church, police in Houston making a shocking revelation.
Investigators followed up on many tips, leads, collected evidence proving that Rudy was not missing during the 8-year period.
According to authorities, he never actually vanished.
This directly contradicted the allegations made by Quano X, who claimed that Rudy had spent the last 8 years hidden in his mother's home and suffered abuse at her hands. Quano X expressed shock at the information he heard from Rudy and emphasized that no child should ever be subjected to such treatment by their own mother. Despite the police's denial, he reiterated his belief that Rudy is a victim and stands by the information he received from him. If I am being completely honest, this case has left me completely puzzled, so I don't want to draft too much of an opinion on it until we get more solid information. Time, money, and resources were spent looking for Rudy, and it is just so shocking to me that she wasn't charged with anything. There are, unfortunately, actually people missing, and I feel like that resources and manpower was just essentially wasted. I also want to express I'm not downplaying the trauma that the family, especially Rudy, has gone through the past 8 years. It just is a really mind-boggling case. False statements like this do way more damage than you think. Following the revelation that a GoFundMe campaign was set up to benefit Janie during the 8 years he was believed to be missing, GoFundMe has issued a statement condemning the misuse of their platform. A spokesperson for GoFundMe stated that the company has a zero-tolerance policy for such misuse and cooperates with law enforcement investigations into alleged wrongdoing. Police confirmed that Rudy was never missing and had been living at his home with his mother throughout the entire period. Both Rudy and his mother provided false information to the police, including using a different name and claiming that he was her nephew during the 8 years he was believed to be missing. The GoFundMe campaign, which had raised over $2,000, had been removed from the platform. Furthermore, Janie Santana has been banned from using GoFundMe for any future fundraisers. I cannot believe she let people send her money for a person that was not even missing. Things like this drafts questions like, what were her true motives? Where did all this money go? And this also drives into the stigma of the credibility of these GoFundMe pages. I think there are still questions investigators need to answer, like how did Rudy end up so brutally beaten? I mean, he even had cuts on him. I guess we will have to be patient and just wait and see. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Murder in My Bedroom. This week's sources are The Independent and KENS 5 News. All sources linked below. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed this episode and follow Murder in My Bedroom on all social media. That concludes this week's episode, and I'll see you guys next week. Special thanks to Fesliyan Studios for the royalty-free soundtracks. You can listen to Murder in My Bedroom in the car, on the treadmill, or even in the shower. Be sure to check out Murder in My Bedroom on Spotify Podcast, Apple Podcast, or any other podcast platforms you may listen on. Please subject all case requests to murderinmybedroompodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.